Everyone loves a great villain. However, nowadays there seems to be this preconceived notion that in order for a villain in a TV show or movie to be interesting, that villain must be sympathetic or hold a belief that what he or she is doing is morally just. In other words, no villain can think that they are the bad guy. And if they did, they wouldn't be very interesting. And to an extent, I both agree and disagree with that statement. So I put up a poll on my Twitter, asking my followers who their favorite villain was. The options were Frieza, Cell, Majin Buu, and Zamasu. With over 2,000 votes cast and almost half the votes, Frieza won, despite being in the running with the sympathetic Zamasu. However, I don't think that really proves anything. Two of the most popular villains to emerge from film last year were sympathetic: Black Panther's Killmonger and Infinity War's Thanos. However, in recent years, I've seen far more sympathetic villains propagate our screens, and a significant decline in the number of pure evil ones, which leads me to believe that there's a misunderstanding. In her book, Creating Character Arcs, K.M. Weiland writes about the flat character arc, and how that character, while he or she doesn't develop personally, changes the world and characters around him or her. Goku is a positive flat arc, and so changes characters and the world around him for the better. But in the case of Frieza, he is a fantastic example of the negative flat arc. One that doesn't change or develop, but does change and manipulate the world and characters around him for the worse. However, to find out what makes a great flat arc villain like Frieza tick, we must first discuss what makes the most popular villain arc in fiction so successful: the sympathetic or negative arc villain. The most common arc found in fiction nowadays surrounding a villain in a given story is the negative character arc. Negative arc characters are those who through circumstance, personal experience, or intervention have become morally reprehensible individuals. Through their expressed motivations, we the audience can clearly understand the path they took to arrive where they currently are. This creates a more realistic world as well as a great sense of morality overall. This can lead the audience to better respect and in some cases agree with the villain's motivations, creating a more relatable and as a result a more believable character overall. Characters like Light Yagami from Death Note and Zamasu from Dragon Ball Super demonstrate this arc perfectly. The same script writing trope can be observed in positive character arcs too, only it happens in reverse. Instead of overcoming a lie they believe, the negative character arc oftentimes sees a villain develop a lie to believe. This usually works well, acting as a foil or contrast to the main character's positive arc development. And this is where the flat negative arc of Frieza differs from conventional negative arc characters. He doesn't develop from good to bad, he's a maliciously consistent psychopath. In Robert McKee's book Story, he writes, "A protagonist and his story can only be as intellectually fascinating and emotionally compelling as the forces of antagonism make them." In the same way, a character like Goku changes the world around him for the better while not changing himself. Frieza is a negative flat arc character that changes the world around him for the worse. He enslaves civilizations and enrolls soldiers to do his bidding across the universe where his presence is felt. It's an established trope that Goku uses mercy and example to bring people to his way of thinking, whereas Frieza utilizes fear and manipulation to change people for the worse. Because of who their characters are, Goku can't influence Frieza to be good, and Frieza can't influence Goku to be bad.
一応最後に聞いておこう。どうかな？僕の下で働いてみる気はないか？
冗談じゃねえって。オラがそんな申し出受けると思うのか？
In John Truby's book, The Anatomy of Story, he writes, "You must see your opponent structurally, in terms of his function in the story. A true opponent not only wants to prevent the hero from achieving his desires, but is competing with the hero for that same goal. Find the deepest level of conflict between them. Ask yourself, what is the most important thing they are fighting about?" Goku and the others travel to Namek to obtain the planet's Dragon Balls, so that they can wish Tien, Chaozu, Yamcha, and Piccolo back to life. However, Frieza's short-term motivation is to gather the Dragon Balls too, and thus is in direct competition with the heroes to achieve the same scenario. This is the organic reason both Goku and Frieza meet. If we go even deeper, Goku desires to fight Frieza because he wants to prove that he is stronger than him. On the other side of the coin, Frieza is fighting Goku because he needs to be the Emperor of the Universe, to show that he is the strongest. We learn exactly what Frieza is about through his very first introductory scene. Discovered by Gohan and Krillin, Frieza, flanked by his henchmen, holding in their possession Dragon Balls, begin what is a surprisingly civil dialogue with the Namekians living there. However, the moment resistance is met, Frieza politely asserts that if he plans to remain silent, he will have to die. Again, intimidation is how Frieza gets his way here. The entire conversation between the Elder Namekian and Frieza is conducted with a thick tension in the air. It's as if the entire conversation is being carried out to amuse Frieza, and for him to flex his clout over the villagers. You might notice while watching or reading this scene that it's not entirely dissimilar to the opening scene of Inglourious Basterds directed by Quentin Tarantino. This scene depicts a French home being interrogated by the Nazis, which the lead interrogator, otherwise known as the Jew Hunter, is, much like Frieza, coy, playful, with a murderous streak. What's more is that both scenes seem to end in the same way, the Nazis having gotten what they came for, and one Jew escaping the clutches of the invading Nazis. The parallels between Hitler and Frieza are quite apparent. Frieza is quite literally a racist. He believes that Saiyans are insignificant nothings that couldn't possibly measure up to someone as sophisticated as he, neither mentally nor physically. However, at the same time, he is plagued by the legend of the Super Saiyan, which led him to destroy an entire race of valuable assets to his cause. While this took place, Goku was one of the only Saiyans that survived the attempted extinction, a Saiyan that happens to firmly hold the belief that anyone can be better than they are if they try hard enough, directly flying in the face of Frieza's firmly held ideology. Similarly, power levels were introduced into the series to reinforce this false narrative that your power level is your value, your ranking in the world, that you can never change. And during the story, time and time again, those that believed that narrative were proven wrong, time and time again.
Super Saiyajin Son Goku da!
For a villain to be a force in your story, he or she needs to have more power than the hero, but that isn't limited to traditional power like strength or resources. For example, Zamasu was more sly and cunning than those around him and thus got as far as he did. Frieza was ruthless and smart, you get the picture. But the villain can't just have power, he needs to have personality, a sort of charisma. We find ourselves rooting for Frieza not because we agree with his motivations or goals, but because we respect his ethic in attaining them. Frieza is incredibly tenacious. He's also very pragmatic and cunning. These are traits which create incredible character moments also, many of which were on display during Frieza's brief anti-hero run in the Tournament of Power, where Frieza assumed a position Vegeta was in during his fight with the Ginyu Force, fighting against a common enemy. However, unlike Vegeta, because of who Frieza is, a flat, negative character, he reverted back to his mantra immediately after. Throw sadistic, arrogant, and playful into the mix, and you have yourself a very entertaining character. This is why Frieza is, on a fundamental level, perfect for a story like Dragon Ball that has a main character like Goku. Frieza punishes those who stand up to him, who fight him, and juxtaposed to this, Goku celebrates those that are strong. Frieza's villainous motivation fundamentally reflects but disagrees with the hero's motivation, Goku. And this is what makes their eventual clash all the more satisfying. And boy, do they clash.
ご飯や父や地球やナメック星みんなの未来ほら絶対に負けられねえ
In the book's story, Robert McKee writes, true character is revealed in the choices a human being makes under pressure. The greater the pressure, the deeper the revelation, the truer the choice to the character's essential nature. What this means is, if a character is put under pressure, then the choices he or she makes are closer and more honest to what their true nature is. Frieza is a tremendous pressure in this scene, in which, because of the pressure only Frieza can apply, Goku does possibly one of the most selfless things he does in the entire series, the Kaioken times 20, putting his entire life at risk for a chance to take Frieza out. Additionally, when Frieza is revived and forced to train to be competitive in Resurrection F, Goku is directly bringing out the best in Frieza. Frieza does some of his best work when interacting with Goku, and Goku does some of his best work while interacting with Frieza. Because of the nature of their respective arcs, they elevate and magnify each other's personalities. One last but important thing I want to touch on regarding Frieza's characterization is his ability to exploit Goku's greatest weakness. And he does this 3 times throughout the story. Once on Namek, Frieza begs for mercy and Goku obliges. Once in Resurrection F, Frieza exploits Goku's guard being put down. And once in the afterlife when he bargains with Goku to get his life back in exchange for a chance to fight him once again. No character in the entire series has manipulated Goku like Frieza has done. Frieza could have been written like a tragic character, one that through horrid circumstance became a monster in unbelievable and relatable ways. However, in a series like Dragon Ball with a protagonist like Goku, Frieza has found himself with a character arc that works as a perfect counterbalance to that of Goku, making his negative flat arc the perfect complement to Goku's positive flat arc. Frieza has and wishes to change the world and characters around him for the worse. And keep your eye out when Dragon Ball Super returns to our screens, because I bet he still intends to manipulate Broly for the worse. Dragon Ball is a fantastic series full of incredible, diverse, and extreme personalities, with a world surrounding the characters that is just as colorful and extreme. My hope with this video was to outline why purely despicable characters have a place in fiction alongside their more popular, sympathetic, and relatable counterparts. These wicked characters captivate us, disgust us, and make us cheer with their defeat. So who knows? Perhaps now you'll respect, see the merit in, and above all appreciate when a character is written to be the unsympathetic villain. Thanks for watching.